everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, we are doing the 10 Untouched Books Tag. This is a tag that was recently created by Rainier Books. I will leave them linked down below. And this was an original tag that he did because he wanted to talk about books, but also talk about sustainability and the fact that people buy a lot of books that they don't necessarily read. And I think it is a good thing to bring up. I have maintained for a while that book collecting and book reading are two completely different hobbies, but I also go into both of those hobbies not thinking that I'm gonna buy a book and never read it. I buy the books because I do want to read them. I definitely want to have the choice to read them. And so yes, I do think, as we all know, I have a spending problem for books. I think my book collecting hobby sometimes takes precedent over my book reading hobby, and part of that is just time that I don't have because I have kids. And so like, I want to devote more time to reading. But this whole tag is to actually talk about 10 books that you have not read yet, specifically books that you have owned for at least 1 year or more. And so I really think there are going to be people out there who do booktube, who read books, that will not be able to do this tag because you utilize your library more, or you don't buy as many books, you use the ebooks. I want to give you props. If you are somehow not able to do this tag, more power to you. I love the idea of having a bunch of books on my shelves because I do TBRs on this channel and things like that, but I'm also a very big mood reader. But I definitely have books we can talk about. I definitely have books that are over a year old, still sitting on my TBR. So that's what we're doing today. I have 10 untouched books here that I'm going to show you and sort of talk about why they're untouched, that kind of thing. So the first thing that this made me think of when I was debating what books do I actually have that are old, very old on my shelves. I have It Devours by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Craner. These are the creators of the Night Vale podcast and books and things that go along with that. And this is the second book in the Welcome to Night Vale book series. I read the first one back when it came out, and this is the first book that I purchased myself with my Barnes & Noble employee discount when I worked at Barnes & Noble. So this was purchased back in 2017, right around when I started this channel, because I started working at Barnes & Noble a couple months, I want to say, before I started this channel as well. And I have not read it. Part of it is I was very, very into the Welcome to Night Vale podcast. And like I said, I read the first book. But this one, I remember purchasing it in 2017, and I think it was a while after I had been listening to the podcast and reading the book and things like that, and it just felt like I was a little bit removed from it. I don't remember. Eventually, at some point, I don't know if I caught up on the podcast or I just stopped listening to it, but like I got really behind. And I haven't really listened to it since. And so because of that, I've been wanting to read it. I love the fact that it has sprayed edges. Back in 2017, you didn't find a lot of books like that for like a traditionally published, normal, regular book release, which this was. And I just never picked it up. I was so excited to purchase it, and I didn't do it. Yeah, a Welcome to Night Vale novel. This is the second one. I have the third one, which I think is like the faceless old woman who secretly lives in your home. Because again, that's like a character from the podcast. And I really I need to read it. I know that there's another book that these people have written, which is not part of the Welcome to Night Vale series, but a lot of people have read it and really enjoyed it and told me that I should read it. It's something to do with Alice. I'll leave it here, because I don't remember. But yeah, this is the first one that made me think of for this tag, because it has been sitting on my shelves for almost 8 years now. The next one I have here is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang, the finale to the Poppy War trilogy. I pre-ordered it before it was released. It came out in 2020. It's been like 5 years now. Have not picked it up. Part of it is because I'm very, very intimidated by this. I actually tried to do a vlog back when this was coming out, like before it came out, where I reread The Poppy War, which I still love. It is very, very dark, has very tough things in there, war and atrocities and things like that, be aware. And then I was in the middle of the second book, which I do not really enjoy. It's more political, it's a little bit more slow moving, and I stopped in the middle of the second book at the parts that were just boring to me, even though it has a really good like ending. And then because of that, this is intimidating. It's one of my chunkiest books. I'm also just now realizing that my kids somehow have colored on it. I'm sure I can get that off. The cover feels slick enough that I probably can. But like, I'm just intimidated because I'm now at the point where I'm like, do I reread and try and get through it again? Maybe I get like the audiobooks or something. Or do I just say like, I remember enough, right, to jump back in this and just do it. I don't remember anymore what the consensus was on this book. Like, were people devastated? Probably. There was tons of like really tough stuff in the first two books. Tons. I do need to finish it. I know some people absolutely love the series. Like, it's like their favorite thing ever. It's had so many special editions and things like that. Very, very intimidated. Okay, so we're moving on to something that I forgot about at first, because like I said, my very first thing that I thought about was It Devours. However, I worked at Barnes & Noble twice, and I bought It Devours the second time I worked at Barnes & Noble. There's another book that I actually bought at the first Barnes & Noble that I worked at. So this would have been in like 2014, 2015, before I met my husband. And I bought a whole trilogy that I have never picked up. The first book is White Cat by Holly Black. This is a YA series, paranormal-esque, I want to say, because I don't fully remember everything. A family of curse workers, people who have the power to change your emotions, your memories, your luck by the slightest touch of their hands. Yes, I do need to read this, but I bought the entire series in this cover. We have White Cat, Red Glove, and Black Heart. And I have the entire trilogy because when I worked at Barnes & Noble, it was very easy to go into the system and look up books, especially when you're doing it for other people, and you could see like how many books you have in the warehouse, how likely something is to eventually be out of print, that kind of thing. I don't know if we've gotten more of these books or not, but at the time when I was working at Barnes & Noble, like I said, back in like, I think this was like probably closer to 2014, this edition was going to be out of print. And I really liked the covers, and I really wanted to read the story, and so I bought the entire trilogy, and I never read it. We're now like 11 years later. I still have this YA paranormal series. I do still want to read it, but I have the whole thing. This needs to probably just be like a sit down and marathon it type of thing. Do I need a vlog to motivate myself? I don't know, maybe, but like, I should have picked it up. Okay, the next one that I have here is Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. So this is an Illumicrate book. Has the edges. This is back before they were doing like a ton of extra covers and stuff, because I'm pretty sure this is like the original cover, but we did have really cool, like I really like this underneath the dust jackets. And we do have like a reversible dust jacket, that kind of thing. So this is like before everything was like so involved with Illumicrate special editions, but it is signed. This is a book that is not necessarily my type of book, and I feel like that was the consensus when this came in the Illumicrate, because Illumicrate, especially nowadays, mostly does like fantasy and things like that. We know that that's sort of what we're gonna get. We now have the extra imprints of like romance and horror and sci-fi, but back in the day you were really gonna get fantasy with maybe some sci-fi things thrown in, and this is more of like a contemporary heist story, and people are like, what is going on? I feel like in order for a heist story to actually be good for me, it has to be like exceptional. And I do like the idea of this being a more like cultural take. The fact that I think all of our main characters potentially are Asian, specifically Chinese, I think, and they're like stealing back the Chinese art and artifacts from Western societies. I like that idea. But in general, I don't know, this feels more like literary fiction, and I don't usually pick that up. So this was published like in 2022. 3 years later, here we are, have not picked it up, have debated unhauling it before, but at the same time, I feel like this is gonna be good. It's just not exactly something in my wheelhouse, and so because of that, it's just been sitting on a shelf. Okay, the next one I have here is actually gonna be middle grade, and it's The Fowl Twins by Owen Colfer. This was published in like 2019. It's the nice hardcover edition. I'm pretty sure I got it when it came out, so it's been 6 years, just about. And the reason it's sitting on the shelf still is this is the spin-off series, the first book in the spin-off series of Artemis Fowl, which started being published in 2001 when I was 11, and I absolutely love that series. I have reread it a few times, and it's one of those things where I think I want to reread it before I get to this. So that's part of the reason I haven't picked it up, is I want to reread that series, but at the same time, I have a friend on BookTube who, again, absolutely loves the Artemis Fowl series, but did not like this one. And so now I'm like a little bit intimidated. This is a friend that we don't necessarily share the exact taste in books. Like there are some things she loves that I hate and vice versa, but we do have a lot of overlap. And so the fact that we both loved Artemis Fowl so much, and now, like, I want to reread Artemis Fowl because I do love it so much, but at the same time, is that gonna hinder me liking this one? Is this just a bad book? Is this like that thing of taste? For her it was bad, but for me it wouldn't be bad. Like, I'm just now at that weird point where like I do need to read it. I've had it for a long time and I just haven't touched it. Another one that apparently was published in 2019 is A Dream So Dark by L.L. McKinney. This is the second book, the sequel, in a series, trilogy, I can't remember off the top of my head, called The Nightmareverse. This is basically Buffy meets Alice in Wonderland. We follow this main character here, which I don't know their name. Alice, that makes sense. Alice in Wonderland meets Buffy, who does go into like this nightmarish wonderland and have to defeat demons and creatures like that. And I remember this taking a while to come out after the first book, because I read the first book, really enjoyed the first book. It ends on a cliffhanger, and so I knew I needed this. I probably pre-ordered this actually, but I feel like this one came out a while after the first one, so I knew I was going to want to reread the first one. Then I want to say the third one, I don't remember if the third is the finale or not, but I remember that one I think also taking a while to come out after this one. And so I bought this one, I knew I wanted to read it, but at the same time I was like, I'm going to wait until there's more in the series as well, because of the way the first one ended. I needed to read more. I needed to go back to that one. And now it's just, there's been time in between books. Now that I'm thinking about it, I need to know. Okay, maybe there wasn't like a ton of time between the first books. The first one was published September of 2018, and I read that pretty much right away, I want to say. This one was September of 2019, but the third one, which I think is the finale, I could be mistaken, but I think it is September of 2023. So there was 4 years between the second book and the third book. So that's what it was, ultimately. Me wanting to have the third one ready to go because of the cliffhanger from book 1 to book 2. But I really liked that this was dark, and it did mash up that sort of Buffy energy with the Alice in Wonderland retelling. I need to get back into this. I really do. The next book I have here is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I actually have a few different Riley Sagers that I probably could work for this, but this is the oldest that I have on my shelf. I have read all the ones up through this, so like the 5, I think it was, that came right before this. And I want to say the first earlier 2 books I gave like 3.5 stars. The ones that came after I gave between 4 and 5. Like, I actually really enjoy the thriller aspects, the mystery aspects he puts into these. But I remember this one, I'm pretty sure, having mixed reviews, even from people that absolutely love his stories. And so I have been pre-ordering every single Riley Sager. and yet I haven't been reading them. And again, these are not in a series. I could literally just skip around and pick up whatever I wanted, but I haven't. I think I have like 3, maybe 4 on the shelf right now that I could just pick up and read, and I haven't. So I definitely need to get back into these. I think because I don't read a ton of mystery thrillers, even if this is not the best one, like even his like first 2 books, I didn't think they were like amazing, but they were addicting enough that I finished them in like 1 or 2 sittings. So like I could very easily read this and then continue on to maybe other ones that are very, very interesting. But yeah, I think it's the intimidation factor of the fact that there was a lot of people that do love what he did, and like I liked the last couple books before these one a ton, that I'm intimidated that this one didn't have as good of reviews. The next one that I have here is a mass market. I probably could have picked a ton of my mass market paperbacks for this because they sort of sit off to the side and I forget about them. But that's not a good enough reason to do this video. This one is Into the Fire by Janine Frost. This is the 4th and final book of the Night Prince series, which is part of her Night World series. The first series being the Night Huntress series, which has like 7 or 8 books that I have read them all, really, really enjoyed them. They are paranormal romance with vampires. This one follows Dracula. I think his Vlad is his real name. Yeah. And he's sort of like a side character that comes in near the end of the Night Huntress books. And this book is one of those things where I think I was buying these as they were coming out, but not reading them right away. As you guys know from my TBR, I don't read them right away. And it got to a point where it had been a while since I had read the books when this one came out, or when I eventually bought this one. This one originally was published in 2017, and I like the Night Huntress books a lot, that I knew I wanted to actually reread them and then continue on. So like I would read all those 7 or 8 of those, plus the 3 before this one, plus this one, plus there's another spin-off with another side character that I wanted to read, and I own a couple of them as well. And now she's also started to redo the Night Huntress series from Bones, the guy's point of view, and there's at least 2, maybe 3 of those ones out. Like I need to get back into this world because I really, really liked this one. It was one of my very first like actual paranormal romance type of things. I liked it. I need to pick them up again. Okay, we are almost there. On number 9, I have The Song Rising by Samantha Shannon. This, I was gonna look for a copyright date, is signed. Like, crazy. But this is the 3rd book in the Bone Order series. Is that what the actual series name is? Potentially. So, this I bought because it is the original cover. When this 3rd book was coming out, I had read the first 2. I did. I own them. Really, really enjoyed them. And then the publisher was talking about changing the covers. And everybody was up in arms because the original covers of the Bone season were really, really well done. We also had like this design underneath the dust jacket on every single book. And it was just like, I loved the design of the books. And so you were able to get this one in this cover, but I think it was going to be the 4th book you weren't going to be able to. I don't know, something around cover design made me buy this, but then I did not continue reading because of all this other stuff going on. I think it was a lot of like, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. And now Samantha Shannon has sort of revised her Bone season books because the original Bone season came out years and years and years ago, and she's become a better writer, in her own words especially, but I'm sure because after you write a bunch of books and publish a bunch of books, your writing style can change a little bit. And I think the Bone season was like her very first series, her very first book, and so now we have the new covers, the new revised material, and I don't know if we're ever going to continue this series in the original covers. Even though I really did like them. I really do. But I'm now at the point where I think I need to reread the Bone season. A lot of the books that I have on my shelf that I haven't read in a while or haven't read right away is because I need to reread things. I like to reread though, so it's okay. But like, there's so many new things coming out I'm getting off track. I need to reread because they're new. So it's almost like reading new again, the books. And so she has re-released, I think the first 4, I think we're officially at the first 4 in the new editions. And it will continue the series, but like I really, really enjoyed what I had. I love these covers. I do love the new covers as well, but I'm just now at a point where because there was so much up in the air about this series, I had paused it. Even though I owned this one, I had paused it. I didn't want to like read more and get to like another cliffhanger and that kind of thing. But now I think we're moving on to new covers. So I don't know if this book will ever actually get touched. And then now we're on to the last one here. I have Thunderbird by Chuck Wendig. So this is the 4th book in the Miriam Black series, and this is the first book that had a new cover. Yes, so the first 3 books in this series, which I think I gave 5 stars to all of them, were in a mass market paperback size. A lot of the times genre books, so like sci-fi, fantasy, mystery, romance, they don't always get a traditional paperback size. They don't always get a hardcover release. They, a lot of the times, will be exclusively mass market paperbacks. I do think that has changed a little bit in publishing. You don't find a ton of things now that are only mass market, but it is a thing. And so I read all 3 of the beginning books of this series in mass market, and it had gorgeous art. I absolutely loved the look of that series. I loved the books too. I absolutely did. It's about Miriam Black, who when she touches somebody can see how they're going to die, and she touches this guy and wants to actually try and save him, even though that hasn't worked for her in the past. And I loved that sort of aspect of it. I really loved the books. She's very crass, lots of cursing and stuff, but like I liked the idea of her trying to, you know, prevent this death, especially when you know it might not happen. After the first 3 books, they weren't published for a while. Like, I think we knew we were supposed to get more in that series, but like it had just basically been like stopped for a while. I don't know how many years. But then when they did publish the 4th book, this is what we got. Hardcover, brand new cover. I don't like these covers nearly as much as the originals. But I guess the first 3 books had gotten so popular that they could justify trying to release hardcovers and get more money for the author, and people would want to do that because mass market paperbacks are obviously cheaper to produce. If you're not too sure about an author as a publisher, that's part of the reason they do that. And they never released the last 3 books in the series. This is a 6-book series in that mass market format. So I do have the entire 6-book series now in the hardcovers. I still have my original mass markets though as well because they're gorgeous, gorgeous. But it had been a while from the 3rd book to this 4th book. Like I don't know exactly how many years. Okay, I can look it up, and I did. So the 3rd book in the Miriam Black series originally was published in 2013. This one, once they decided to go to hardcover, was 2017. So almost 4 years later because of the months difference. Almost 4 years later. And they finally came out with a hardcover. So I am just at that point where I was actually waiting. I didn't buy these right away. I got these on discount after a while. I didn't get these in 2017. I waited for a little bit. So it was over 4 years for me. And then that's when I realized they're not going to publish it in mass market, because usually publishing, again, will do a hardcover and then about a year later or so we'll move on to the paperback. So I was like crossing my fingers hoping, but we didn't. So I did eventually pick up the entire series in hardcover, so I have matching stuff on my shelves, and they were on sale. But it had been so long that I do again feel like I need to reread the books, especially since I loved the first 3 so much, to really get the full experience of these. Again, I've owned these since probably like 2018, 2019. Like again, it was not exactly 2017. I haven't picked it back up. I haven't reread the stuff. Do I need a vlog to make myself marathon them? I don't know. Maybe I do need something. I tried to put a card in my TBR game stuff, which was like called Finish a Series. something like that for a vlog. So like ultimately, when I have things like this, I could reread the books and then continue and finish the series. That's actually never come up on my TBR game yet, but that was an option. So there we go. Those are my 10 untouched books, plus all of the reasons why. I can't be the only crazy book person who stops reading a series or something because of like cover changes. Like, come on, I can't be the only person. But since this is a new tag, I'm going to be tagging some people that I would really like to see. First of all, if they're able to complete this, if they have those kind of older books on their TBR, what their reasons are. So I do want to tag Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe, Kirsty from K-Beth Bookish, Ashley from Realm of Kidlit Comics, Nikki from Nerdy Nikki, and then I have a couple big booktubers that I don't know if they will ever actually see this, even if I tag them in it, but I would be curious about them doing this. So I'm also going to tag Becca from Becca and the Books and Kayla from Books and Lala. I would love to see them examine their TBR and talk about some of the older books that they have never touched. Maybe there's a reason why. Maybe you discover that you actually need to unhaul some stuff. Who knows? But I really do like this tag. I like that we get to talk about some older books, some reasons why things are on our TBR that hopefully we want to read. Like, I do want to read every single one of these. And those are my random reasons for why I haven't touched them yet. So if you guys like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more videos. I do have videos coming out Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So I will see you then. Bye.